Okay, we are still in skirts, chapter 13 in your textbook. Today we're going to be talking about flared skirts. We're going to be using the slash and spread method. So the flare skirts, in this particular example, it's like your little A-line mini skirt. And what we're going to be doing is using the slash and spread method, and I'm going to show you how to basically, very similar to what we did with our front panel when we created flare. We are going to be cutting on the fold. You will be transferring your side seam. This is probably one of the easiest patterns to draft. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to draft this on my oak tag because that's a little bit more stable as far as slicing and spreading is concerned. I'm going to show you two methods. We're going to do one slash and spread and the other one pivot. And they have different benefits for depending on what you're going to use. So for the slash and spread method, we're just going to trace off our skirt bodice block. I'm tracing off my front here, the waistband, the dart intake, my side seam. I want to note my hip level. I want to note my dart apex. I'll punch those with my awl so that I'm making sure that I'm transferring those properly. And your dart legs are going to be very important. And then we have my side seam. And I'm just going to use the length of my sloper for today. So I want to make sure that I come back now, and I've drafted in my hip level, making sure that it's perpendicular to my center back. And I'm going to just go over this here with my Sharpie so that you can see it a little bit more clearly. And then I have my dart legs, the one that's closest to the side seam, the one that's closest to the center front, and this is my center front skirt. This is my front, this is my hip. So the flare skirt, what we want to do is create what's called a plumb line. We're going to basically connect this dart leg that's closest to the side seam in an imaginary line all the way down. It's going to be perpendicular through my hip level, and it's going to bisect all the way down to my bottom hem. So I'm creating a plumb line, and it's bisecting that dart leg through the dart apex. It is perpendicular with my hip line, and I'm dropping that plumb line all the way down to the bottom hem. So very, very important that it's nice and bisecting that line there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to slash on this plumb line. We'll be pivoting the dart closed. This particular example will have a single dart with flare. And I'm going to use my scissors now to cut this out, and we're going to slash and spread on this dart. So I remember making sure to cut level on the table. You're tracing your style line. You're not cutting inside the line. You're not cutting outside the line. Smooth, even strokes are the key to having a nice, smooth cut. Breathing in and out smoothly. Do your yoga breaths while you're cutting. So you're neither inside the line on the center front or outside the line. You're directly on top of that center front grain. And then the last piece here, our waistband. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to just cut out my darts here for this example so you can see what we're doing. Remember that this is going to be a single dart like your book. This is on page 239. And my dart here that's closest to the side seam. Now I'm going to slash and spread, and we're going to pivot this dart close. So remember, when we're slashing from the bottom up, and we're going to back off from that dart apex about 1/8 of an inch, and that's where it will hinge. Okay, now I need to secure my center front. If I'm using the point paper, I can align it to the marks. If you're using your oak tag, make sure that you drafted your grain line. I'm going to secure that. Secure my hem so it doesn't shift. And the top of my waistband here. And now, at this dart, closest to the side seam, we are going to pivot this dart closed. So, aligning that waistband closed, tape it down, secure it. And you'll notice that it's opened up this new space here at the bottom hem. So you've now created flare on your skirt. If you'll notice that this example is not as flared as my example here. Say you want to have more flare, more A-line to the skirt. Well, I can create the same difference here with my first dart. I'm going to draft a plumb line. So plumb line is extending down through the apex, perpendicular to the hip line, perpendicular to my center, my bottom hem. I will slash on that. From the bottom hem up, backing off about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to pivot that dart closed. So now we have a nice A-line skirt. Secure all of your pattern pieces. So now when you go to trace off, so when I go to trace off now, I'm following this exterior line, and I'm noting my waistband, my hem. You'd have a 2-inch hem. You'd want to transfer a notch here for your hip line to help with the matching. If you don't want a seam, you'd do the center front on the fold. And this is what your finalized pattern piece would look like. I'm going to show you this same skirt now. This is 803. We've done the slash and spread method. I'm going to show you the same skirt using the pivot method. One of the benefits of using the pivot method is it takes less time. It's less wasteful. In the pattern room, sometimes you don't have a lot of opportunity to slash and spread. So we're going to show you the same skirt using the pivot method. Just open this up and you'll be able to see the final effect side by side with one another. So, opening this up to my point paper so you can see what's the first rule of thumb. We always want to make sure we are drafting our grain line. I'm going to use my L ruler. I'm going to establish my grain line. This will be my center front. Now, pivot method, flared skirt. This is still demo 803. Instead of tracing the whole skirt off, we're only going to trace to the first dart leg. And noting if we marked a plumb line here on our sloper, so if I were to do the same method like we did before, where we dropped a plumb line down from each of these dart legs, from the apex to the bottom hem, these would be my sections or panels. So I've marked on my sloper now what we just did here on the earlier version where we slashed. In my draft, I'm going to draft from this first dart leg to the center front. And at the bottom of the hem, I'm drafting from this first section to the center front. Then I put my pencil in the dart apex of the dart we're going to pivot from. I pivot my dart closed, meaning I make sure that the dart leg touches the dart leg. And then now I can trace from my waistband to the second dart leg. And at the bottom of the hem, I'm going to pick up where I left off this center panel. So we now drafted the middle. We've drafted the middle. Now we're going to come to the second dart. So just like on our example here, we were slashed and spread for some good A-line, we're going to pivot this dart closed so we can create some additional fullness. So again, I put my pencil in the dart I'm going to close. I'm going to pivot this dart shut. And now I can finish tracing my waistband. So from that dart leg to my side seam, through my side seam, noting my hip line for a notch for control, down to my bottom hem, side seam hem, to that panel. So you can see here now I've drafted the same thing, what you have really did here with the slash and spread method, and all you need to do is connect the dots using your blending tools to complete the hem. So this was the pivot method, flare skirt. And this version here was the slash method. Remember, after either method, once you've completed your pattern, you need to make sure you're marking if your center front is on the fold, how many pieces, transferring your seam allowances, and noting your bottom hem. And that is how we do the flare skirt.